All right. Now, the reason I'm speaking about this, I know it's aside from comics, but y'all know that I'm a gamer as well. And this is a game that I clock a lot of hours in. I have for a long time. I play this very competitively. So I had to speak on it, right? Let's get in. Well, hold on. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's just get into it. So, for those that don't know, NBA 2K is adding the WNBA. They made this big deal out of it. It's one of their big blog notes that they come out each year before the game comes out. And a lot of these journalists, as you can see, are mad because of the jokes that came out of it. You can see this is one of the memes. It talks about all the moves, the it's sexist memes and so forth, right? And the same thing with Polygon, sickening, saddening, and so forth, right? So people are basically mad at the simple fact that people are making jokes. Now, I want to give you guys some background about this before we get into the jokes themselves. 2K ran into this. They ran right into this. I'm going to tell you why. For those that don't play this game, it is a mess. I think it's an absolute joke that they have an esport. They have this game, a professional league based on this game, considering how uncompetitive, or this isn't a competitive game at all, right? This is a cheese fest. It is not a simulation basketball game, though it pretends to be. There's a whole lot of problems that happen within this game when you get to playing competitively, namely in my career, or even, they have the My Team, which is basically their version of like an ultimate team with FIFA. But main mode that people play are the My Career, so they can go and play in the park with other players that they have created, or to play with other players that have their own created individual player. And they have Pro-Am teams, which, that's what I play very competitively. Me and four of my guys, we get together, we play the Pro-Am against five other people. And it pretends, and they promoted it as if this is a simulation game and it's a cheese fest, and it's a pay to win sort of thing. Yes, you have to grind up to a certain point, but to get your guy to like 85 overall, you can just pay money. And then they have these boosts which incentivize you to continue to give them money, VC, and so forth. But it's not a competitive game, right? Now, the reason I'm mentioning that, you may be like, what the hell does this have to do with anything? Well, I'm not the only one saying this, that this game needs to be fixed. And one of the modes that we're seeing promoted is this WNBA thing, which nobody's going to play. Let's be realistic about the situation. Nobody is going to play. And it's being promoted as inclusiveness. This is long overdue and so forth. Nobody is going to play this mode. Let's just be realistic. And really, if we want to be real with it, the people that are going to play it are going to play it to make jokes and videos and stuff like that, just to make jokes out of it, which is what they did out of this. And they ran right into it. It has less to do with the sexism, which, yes, you can argue that's a part of it, but more to do with the fact that this game has so many problems. And instead of addressing that, they had to spend a certain section because they promoted it as such. This is what really gets me, is that they spent all this time mocapping everything. Ryan, these are females, right? It's not going to play like the regular NBA game. So they had to do all these mocaps, which you can see the videos. Here comes the WNBA. And they did all these different things to try to integrate this into NBA 2K. So it's going to play like a different game because, again, these are different types of players. So instead of Mike Wang, who was the head gameplay guy over there, developing, you're seeing him in this video, instead of him focusing on the other aspects and fixing the game, which they should have been doing this year's cycle anyway, which was fixing this goddamn game. They spent an amount of time, and you can say, yeah, they may have hired more people and so forth, but those are resources that were dedicated now to a mode that nobody's going to play, that's being put into the game as a way to basically say, well, we're being inclusive. Now, this isn't me being sexist or be, bullshitting or anything like that. There's not a whole lot of female, like sports gamers anyway. Certainly with NBA 2K, there's not a whole lot of them, and the ones that do play, they obviously are more intrigued by the men's side of things, just like everybody else is that watches basketball, including other females. Nobody watches the WNBA. I believe it's lost money the last 20-some years. That league is being specifically subsidized by the NBA. That's the only reason it exists. It does not generate revenue like that. They exist because they are subsidized by the NBA. So this is a mode that is being focused on. Again, it has its own gameplay. It has its own blog. And I want to go to that real quick so you guys know what I'm talking about in terms of what happens. So each year, it's really amazing that they get away with doing this. But each year, they come out with these notes right before, like the month before the game comes out. They do a gameplay blog, they do a presentation blog, they do a my career blog, they do a my team blog. And one of the big blogs that they did was centered around the WNBA, which is why you can see this. If you go to her Facebook, to my Candace Parker, she was helping with the mocap. This is the video that I'm talking about here. But welcome to the NBA. So they have this blog, Felicia Steenhouse here, longtime NBA producer, yada yada. So yeah, as you can see this here, they play different. So they've been spending this time mocapping, and again, this you call this selfish or whatever. I really don't care. This Mike Wang, head gameplay guy. They're spending time developing this, and the game's so broken. This is a game. It's a pretend ass game that they're acting is a fucking simulation basketball game, and it has so many damn problems, and they fucking worried about putting this shit in the game. And the game is so broke. So when you take that into consideration, and this past year, a lot of people were not satisfied with it, then this is the news that we get. They may have done that in a different climate when they were coming off a strong year, but they didn't come off a really strong year, even though I would argue that this game improved a little bit from the previous installation in NBA 2K18. NBA 2K19 is a little bit of an improvement, which is, that's not saying much, but believe it or not, it did get better. And here we are. But the game had a lot of gripes because it's supposed to be this very competitive game. That's what they've been talking about, having so much competitive on this simulation. That's what they've always been about, simulation basketball game. It's the most unrealistic joke of a game, period. And they are worried about the mocaps and all of this other nonsense. To put they promoted it like this is this big thing, WNBA gameplay blog. Nobody's gonna play this mode. So of course the jokes came. And people are going to make fun of you. This is why I say that you ran right into it. It's kind of like the bad woman thing I talked about, and how if they had that first initial trailer come out in a different climate where people weren't on the edge, it might have hit better. But they should have known that putting that shit out in the midst of all of the problems that we've been seeing with comic book character development. Captain Marvel just came out. That's a terrible first trailer to put out, and they put it out. It may have landed different in a different climate. They may could have put them in there if they were coming off a strong year that had addressed a lot of issues, a lot of cheesy issues. Didn't if it actually corrected problems, and for once was the game that wasn't riddled with this. Oh, you got to pay all this money to just even compete with other people. But even not just that, just the overall cheese. It's not about really talent on the sticks. It's more so how can you abuse the game. Which isn't a talent at all. It's not. It doesn't make it fun by any means. But if they didn't have all those problems, it would have landed differently. But of course, all the jokes came. All the jokes and the memes came, and this is a terrible idea. I don't know who was responsible for it. I don't know if it was more so the NBA that pushed 2K to do it. I don't know if it was 2K Games that pushed NBA 2K to do it. But this was a mode that nobody asked for. Just being 100 with you. Nobody asked for that. Nobody sitting here asking for that plays this game competitively. It's like, you know what, I want a NBA 2K game, or the WNBA and NBA 2. Nobody's asking for that. And maybe they're trying to put it into to be more inclusive in the sense that they think that this is going to attract more female gamers. But again, if you most they don't watch the WNBA in the first place. They don't. This is why when people criticize WNBA and the lack of revenue that it brings and the lack of people that actually go watch the games and stuff like that, it's not sexism. It's just real talk. Like not even other females actually really watch this league like that. Now, if you want to say why that is, that's up for a dispute, and we can maybe save that for a different video. But I'm just saying, as it stands, certainly in comparison to the NBA, it doesn't have that fan base, right? And certainly considering the problems that this video game had, they're not gonna bring people in just by way of putting them in because this is the mode that nobody asked for. But that seems to be what they're doing is they're skipping over addressing the problems and all the negative things that's wrong with this game, and that's more so. Even if they didn't do that, that's going to be the perception. So the jokes are going to fly. They're going to rag on that shit, and you ran right into it. But I'm seeing a lot of journalists that are upset. A lot of journalists are mad because of the memes that are coming from this. And a lot of people making fun of it and giggling and stuff like that. Say what you will about all of that, but I don't know if another person that wrote this Kotaku thing, Cecilia, I don't know. I wonder if she has any other. Can we like search her? I wonder if we could search her posts and like see if she's ever talked about anything regarding NBA 2K. I would have to research, but I don't know if she's like, and that's not to say that she has to play it to talk about it in this sense, but I would love to know if she does. That maybe would put some things in perspective. But she's not happy with it. Other journalists aren't with the fact that the memes are flying. And I mean, this you got to understand as well. This is basketball after all. The people that are playing this game are you. It shows you that I'm willing to bet most of the guys over at Kotaku probably they don't play a whole lot of pickup games, right? If they getting offended by memes and shit like that, they don't play a whole lot of pickup games because that's just part of the basketball culture. Like you're gonna get made fun of. You're gonna get talk. You're gonna trash talk. You can do all of that. I'd hate to see these guys at the local rec center if they are getting offended at the memes that are coming from this, but I'm willing to bet they're not accustomed to it in the same respects. So I just wanted to give my bit on that. I know it's a little deviation from the comic book stuff, but y'all know I play it 2K. I played it over at Twitch a lot, and that's one of the games that I've probably clocked the most hours in with my bros and playing Pro-Am and stuff. And that was what was going down in my mind. I knew the jokes were going to come as soon as I heard the announcement. But I'm more so thinking about, you mean to tell me they spent time mocapping and trying to do all of that shit with this game, and it has all the problems? Like, they thought that this was the year to implement this. And this was a terrible year to implement it because your game was shit. And it has a lot of problems, and you're pretending that it's supposed to be this competitive simulation, balanced game, and it's everything. But you have a lot of problems, and if you were addressing those, and certainly if you went through addressing those before you had announced this WNBA, I think they shouldn't even announced it. They could have slid the damn thing in there and maybe announced it post-release, and it would have got less of a pushback. But what people are on the edge right now, they're the two main modes, my team, my career, and they want to see what is being done, specifically with my career, because people play the park, people play as well as, you know, Pro-Am and Jordan Rec and stuff like that. They play all of that. Those are going to be two most played modes, and obviously you have my league and my GM and all those other modes that people are obviously going to play. Way more than what they play with this WNBA thing. And if they had came out with that stuff first, and they did come out with a gameplay blog, but it didn't really talk about a whole lot, but if they addressed that stuff first, it would have been, I think it would have landed a little bit differently. But this goes back to the climate. You're sitting in the hostile climate of, you had a full cycle of people dogging this game because it was so unbalanced, and now you have this 2K league, which is leading us to believe that, well, this has to be the most competitive that it's ever been, simply because they now have an esport backing it and stuff like that. It's a professional league that you have now, so that would incentivize you to make a more balanced and competitive game. And it seems like they didn't put enough effort in actually fixing the gameplay in that regards for last year's game. And you think that'd be the focus for this next year, but before we hear about a lot of the fixes, we're talking about WNBA, which is a mode that nobody's going to play.